What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another awesome edition of Inside Major League Pickleball Pod. Michelle McMahon here, as always, one of the voices of MLP with Tyson Apostle, one of the godfathers and founding fathers of pickleball podcasting, number one trendsetter in the sport. And what a weekend in pickleball. We saw the end of an era and awesome guest this week. Can't wait to get to it.
Very excited.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to it, let's thank our partners and sponsors. Thank you all for making this possible for us. Starting with Margaritaville, Michelob Ultra, Cirkul, Toyota Prius, Dulce, Vida, Tequila, Hospital for Special Surgery, Sunday Swagger, and Frometh Pickleball. Visit MLP online store at Frometh Pickleball to buy your MLP and MLP team gear. Tyson, go ahead and get your awesome swaggy stuff.
You know I will.
All right, Tyson, it was an end of an era this weekend. We witnessed the final singles performance of her career. She continues to be a fixture in the sport since becoming a professional in 2019. She's medaled at some of the biggest tournaments in the PPA, including winning 3 PPA gold medals, the Orange County Cup, Rocky Mountain Championships, and North Carolina. She's a type 1 diabetic, very open about her health journey, inspiring many while balancing the monstrous health journey while also balancing a professional pickleball career. She is Lea Jansen. Lea, thanks so much for joining us. I know you've got a lot on your plate right now. We'll start with how you're feeling after an emotional weekend.
It wasn't really, for me, it wasn't really too emotional. I think I'm just tired ever since Thursday. Like, I woke up yesterday, my blood sugar through the night was at 300 plus. I spent most of the day in bed yesterday just feeling like really off. So was not too emotional for me personally. It was just time.
How long had you had this planned? Like, I know it was in your home state, in front of your home crowd. Was this something that was 6 months in advance, or was it pretty spur of the moment?
You know, I remember in Daytona talking to Lacey Sheeman, Etta Wright, and Elise Jones at the time, and I was like, guys, this might be my last singles tournament. And then I played awful in the final. So there was always a reason, but it was always in the back of my head. And to be completely honest, I don't think any of the players believe me, because I've been internally talking about it for so long that they're like, all right. So when I said it, I remember telling Lauren that morning, I'm like, if I make it through, I'm done. I'm done. This is actually it. She's like, yeah, right. Like, so I don't think people really believe it. But I definitely am done.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I don't think maybe everybody understands is walk us through a day in the life of what it's like playing as a type 1 diabetic. Like, what is that day to day? Why is it so exhausting? Like, bring us through, for those of us who don't understand what that medical prognosis is like.
So when you reach high blood sugars, you get extremely exhausted, and it really puts a load on your system. And every high blood sugar that comes, there's a low that will undoubtedly come. Like, they call it a roller coaster. So singles is the first day. It puts a lot more stress on my system, just in that it's really physical, but it's also really mental. And I've been kind of playing with the target on my back for numerous years now, of just like, anytime I lose, it's a huge upset unless it's to Annalise. So it just started becoming more and more and more of a stressor. And because of those high blood sugars that day, I think there's a reason why mixed is my worst event. I'm shot the next day. And that on Thursday, it always starts that roller coaster. So how I'm feeling by Championship Sunday, I feel like I always say the equivalent is I went to Coachella for a weekend and I just didn't take care of myself and I just went wild. And that's really how you feel. You feel emotionally off. You feel physically off. During that Sunday, I didn't even remember it because a lot of times it's just going too fast on court for my brain to comprehend. But after the match, I was like, man, I don't know what happened. And my mom was like, Lea, you told me you couldn't feel your legs. You told me you were just going to lose that second game and see if you could feel your legs again. So it's physical, but because it's so tough physically, it's hugely emotional. And with MLP kind of being such a huge emphasis on doubles, I've proven my singles. I don't want my draft stock getting hurt anymore because they're like, we don't know how Lea can perform on the mixed court. So there was a lot of factors to it.
Okay.
But
it sounds a lot like being a parent.
Yeah, the day by day is just, you never know. You know, like yesterday I'm practicing.
Yeah.
Yesterday I'm practicing and I'm chugging. Like if I have to chug another Coke, I'm just going to throw up. You know, it's annoying to stop practice and do all that. So it's just like, you never know what's going on. You're never really at an even stable once the adrenaline and the emotions get added to it. So my doctor's like, you know what? This isn't safe anyway. Let's bring out the highest stressful event. Lighten your load. You don't have to be traveling as much. You don't have to be on the road as much. And see how it goes. If it's still terrible, then we really need to have another talk.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, that is interesting that it's because of all the variables, it's hard to control like an even. Is that essentially what I'm understanding is like based on all the variables and all the stresses, you can't control it.
Yeah, and travel,
it's just
stress,
like fingers crossed.
Yeah, travel and stress are like the two main things, like huge, and that's a lot of what my job requires. So in a lot of the data we've been gathering, the doubles days aren't as bad, especially in the tournaments that we gathered data where I didn't play singles, like San Clemente, the last tournament, because we decided no more back-to-back singles because it's just too much. I didn't play singles at San Clemente, and my blood sugars were great the whole weekend. So it's kind of like, all right, we got to kind of like weigh what's good and bad over here.
Okay. So you also mentioned that when you had told some of the other pros that you were going to hang up your singles shoes or paddle, I don't know what the saying would be there. You made it sound to me like you weren't going to do that until you had like one final good run. Is that also my understanding? So let's say Seattle, maybe not your best showing. Are you going to the next tournament?
I had to tell my doctor that I was done because this has been like a long conversation with us. And every single time I came back, it was like, you know, in Minnesota, I was up 5-0 in the third. Oh, Lee killed me. I didn't play great. Oh, I had match points. Oh, I went to Denver and I was sick with it. Like, he's like, I'm sick of it. It has to be, it's never going to be perfect. You have to be done. So I went into that one being like, no matter what, I'm done. But I bet if my last match wasn't against Anna Lee, I probably would be playing this weekend, maybe.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why no one believes me. I've been talking about this internally with pros for so long.
Well, I feel like there's never going to be a moment where it's like a clean cut. Even if you were like went out there and stormed past Anna Lee and got a gold and two, like you're a competitor. There's still a part of you that's like, all right, now I want to keep going.
Now it's worth it.
Yeah, there's no right way or right time, I guess.
It's really hard to step away from something you know you're good at, you know. And when I watch when I watch singles, sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to be out there. So it's really hard to step away from something like that. And I built my career on it, but I mean, it's just time. It's time to rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think another layer that maybe people don't understand is the traveling aspect. You're traveling in on Wednesday instead of Thursday. You have an extra night away from your bed. You're then it just extends. Then you get one day off at home. It's crazy. But what is in your perception, what's the future of singles in general in the sport?
I mean, I'm not really, I don't know. Like, it's definitely gained some more popularity, but the emphasis is still in doubles. Like, I was telling everybody if singles were it, I would be it, you know? I would be that girl. But a lot of what has always been about me is like, Lea, great singles player, great women's doubles player. Mixed doubles, though, or like before I started getting good doubles results. Lea, a great singles player, but doubles, you know. So it's not, in my words, very important, and I've proven it. And the only to me, the only reason Anna Leigh plays is because of that Triple Crown. If there were no Triple Crown bonus, if there were no her trying to set the record for Triple Crowns, I mean, she's putting a load on her body. I talked to her mom about that too. And she's 16, you know, she's putting, and they're worried about it. So I'm not really sure. I think it's definitely going to still always be there. It's going to still always be around. But, you know, if we had 5 singles tournaments a year, sign me up. I would totally do it. But 3 events right now is getting really tough, and it's getting tough for people who are young and in shape. So for someone who's 31, not saying I'm old, but I definitely feel it more than when I was 28, and there's blood sugars to go with it. I'm not really sure. So I think we're going to start specializing eventually.
Yeah. I've got one more on the weekend before we move on to all your MLP stuff with the draft and everything this year, since you were a first round selection. But you got to play in front of your mom for the first time in your pickleball career, which has been now 4 years standing. So what was that like, and what did that moment mean to both of you?
It was fun. Like, my mom has been a huge, like, my mom has played for the Swiss Olympic volleyball team. So she's a huge beach volleyball fan. She played beach volleyball. So it really, Tyson, she's big in that. So she thought it was a huge beach volleyball vibe, which she had a lot of fun with. That was her only time ever seeing me in person. And she didn't even know going into it. I told her that morning, on Thursday morning, I was like, I'm going to be done. And I don't think anyone really expected, like, the storyline to come of it. When I said in the interview, when she asked me, I wasn't expecting much of a big deal of it. So, but she had a lot of fun just seeing the vibe and everything and seeing it up close. She said she definitely gained a lot more respect for what we do, seeing it up close rather than on TV.
So she confirms that an event is better in person than on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And she said just like the athleticism she was seeing, she's like, some of those dinks and stuff, like, you guys are so low, the points are so long, like, it's so jerky. It's hard to tell on TV.
So your mom is Swiss then? And what part of Switzerland?
She's from Lucerne, like a small little village outside Lucerne called Tusnach.
Cool.
Yeah.
And she actually came over here for volleyball.
Wow.
So do you speak German?
No, my dad never let her do it. So it was, we all still really blame her for it, because I would like that.
Yeah. Being bilingual can be an asset.
Yeah.
From
somebody who's not bilingual.
Yeah.
I speak some French.
Are you?
Yeah,
you
I lived over there
okay.
for a long time. I lived in Switzerland.
You did?
Lived in Switzerland. Yeah, I lived in Switzerland for 2 years, the French-speaking part. Lived in Belgium, and then lived in Austria. So
awesome.
I was over there 6-7 years. No, cycling.
Oh, awesome.
Our volleyball friend Casey, you're getting us confused. 2 tall, lanky dudes with
someone
mullets.
told me that you still played volleyball too.
I never played volleyball in my life.
Okay,
but
I got a lot of the wrong information, because I got told Tyson and Casey both played beach volleyball.
No, incorrect.
That'd be funny if you did, though.
That
you guys
would be
a
funny.
Good duo.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of got that vibe.
I do. Yeah, I don't blame you.
You do have a beach volleyball vibe.
Thank you.
I will say. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that's not an insult, but
No.
I don't know.
Totally not. So
let's
Two lanky dudes.
Yeah, let's
It's
go.
fair. It's
Fine.
a fair assumption.
I'm gonna tell people I'm that from now on.
there you go.
Just add it to your res.
Yeah.
Bilingual and beach volleyball player. Olympian.
Both. Yes. Gold medalist in all things. Let's go to the draft, because last season you were part of the Fives. and they took number 1 overall pick, your nemesis and friend, Annalie Waters. And this time around, you were the first round draft choice for the Bay Area Breakers. Did you, like, can you peel back the curtain for us a little bit there? Like, how much communication did you have with that team leading up to it? Did you know that you were going to go in the first round? Did you already have other players in mind? Like, what went into it, and how did this team get created?
So, yes, I actually really, that was my team. Like, if you were to lay out all the teams, they say, who do you want to be drafted by? I wanted to be drafted by the Breakers. I think they just had great chemistry. Their owners, I love their owners. I know them well. They're super involved, and they're really involved in the day-to-day of pickleball. And I like their logo as well, and I like their colors. So I did know before, but, you know, you just never knew where things were going to shake out. I had a few other teams reach out to me as well. So once the 11th pick came and I went off the board, I was like, yes. And in making our team, I think the owners, and that is what I like about it. They know all these players, Richie and Jeff. They are Scott Crandall, our coach, who I'm really excited about because I think he's a great coach. They know everyone up and probably more than me, really, because they watch so much. So they just kind of gave me some names, and we just kind of like went from pick to pick. We chose Etta. I think Etta and our game styles will go well together. I'm pretty flexible in what side I play. I prefer the left, but I can always play the right if my partner plays the left. So I think I'll be on the right with Etta to start with, but we also have that flexibility to switch up, which I love. I don't really like just being stuck on a side. I just think in women's you can't be like that. And then, you know, with our bottom picks, we wanted to go with energy and upside. So we got Rafa Hewitt, who brings more energy than that guy, MLP veteran. You know, I hate playing Rafa at MLP, so I'm going to be super excited to have him on my side. And then Connor Garnett is just improving by the minute, by the second. He's super mentally tough. They played against him in Challenger. Him and Etta already had a good showing. So I think we're a little bit underrated. And, yeah, I think pretty much everyone on our team is really mentally tough. And we're going to have a really good culture.
How much input did you have on second, third, and fourth pick there? Were you on the phone with your team and having input, or not necessarily?
We had a text message stream going. I would say I had more say with my women's pick. And then from there, it was kind of like what they kind of thought fit. I really wanted Hayden Patriquin. That was like, I wanted us to get back together there, but he went like a few slots before. So I think that was really like the only one where I would have been like, no, we're taking Hayden. Like, I don't care. But I think ownership was way on my side for that one as well. But unfortunately, we missed out on him on a few picks. So, yeah, just kind of whatever they brought to me, I was good with. You know, I'm not as into the men's game from that, you know, just like a lot of the guys wouldn't really know who we would pick up in the bottom female spots. So I mainly had a choice in the Etta pick.
Okay. And what percentage of having a cool logo was your desire to play for Bay Area? Because you said like the logo was dope. Like, is that big? Like, should a lot of teams be rethinking their logo to draw more players in?
I think so. Like, the logo is a big thing for me, honestly. When I was watching Bay Area last season, I was like, that's a professional team. Like, they look professional, they look put together, love the colors. You know, it's just like any sports team.
I would love to know the book of Richie's statistics, too, on every single player that has ever come into the pickleball existence.
Richie, yeah.
How are you guys approaching mixed? Yeah, he knows the deal.
So
I believe he's part owner in this.
Yes, yeah. But he's definitely got his say. We're gonna do
Yeah.
how I would assume and how I would like to start it out is like Eden and Connor just had a great result. Rafa and I are pretty familiar with each other. So I would say like you put, the two steely demeanor people together and just keep that as your solid team. They're already proven, and you throw me and Rafa out there and just create some chaos. I like Rafa has a game style I like playing with. I like playing on the left. He likes the quick hands. He's really fiery out there. I think we could really tick some teams off just by being annoying. So I think we're going to start out with Rafa and I. And then the great thing about our team is Etta and I are so flexible that we could go with either one. Etta likes the left. She can go play with Rafa. I can go slide into Connor's spot. So I really like that about our girls is how versatile we are. I think that's the way we should start.
The percentages are so slanted in favor of teams that have lefties too, which is, well, I mean, granted, last year one of those teams had Ben Johns also, which helped.
Yeah.
But, probably skewed the stats a little bit. But Dreambreaker, now that you're retired from the singles side of your pro career, how do you approach training for still keeping that part of your game alive? That I doubt that will ever go away, but how do you, I guess, approach that side of having to play some degree of singles to stay sharp?
So, I mean, I'll always train it, and it actually might be a little more fun for me now to train it. And so if I play a game, I'm not in my head about it, like, oh, I just lost the game and I'm playing on Thursday, and I still stay in shape. So I do think singles training is good for, like, hitting on the volley force, for your drive, for your serves, for your returns. There's still a lot of benefit to it, so I'm still going to train it. Actually, when I do become healthy, like in a few months, I think it's going to be really hard when I'm like training and like feeling good to not go back to it. But yeah, I think for me, it's an area that I enjoy. It's an area that keeps me in shape, and it's an area that I think helps the athleticism of my doubles.
Will you go back? Like, what would it take to
what
see
it would take if
regularly?
I'm consistently medaling in mixed and I'm consistently medaling in women's, I would go back and see if I could get a triple medal. That would be like, I would be like, okay, I'm going to go play 3 tournaments this year, and I'm going to go see if I can triple medal. That would really be the only thing, because as I said, like, I've proven it. I really am transferring my focus to mixed, which has gotten 0 practice time, and really none of my doubles has gotten any practice time. So yeah, I don't see that happening unless I'm like consistently double medaling and I'm like, okay, I want to go try and see if I can triple medal.
Okay. So is that, I mean, I'm kind of hoping for that. What if that happens like the next tournament? You still have to be healthy. It's got
to be consistent. And there is no more this year. My doctor has said. I am under like deep like monitoring. Like when I step off a court, there is a call of like this. I don't want you to a lot of the numbers have just been pretty alarming, and I've been doing it for years. So it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. So I really don't foresee it happening, to be honest.
Yeah. When you talk about the workload of a full season, what is it about MLP events from a player's perspective that is so enjoyable for you with the workload that you already have?
Well, you're playing for a team. You're playing for a huge prize. You kind of feel like you're not playing for yourself, so you got to put everything out there. It's a really like everyone's excited about it. Everyone's bringing this energy. Everybody wants to win, which you're not seeing there. And you're seeing different matchups. And you're like, I'm about to play with Etta, who I've never played with before. That to me is exciting. I'm getting to know Connor and Rafa, which is super exciting. Last year, I would have never even spent the time with Annalie. There just was never time. I got to know her and her family well. I got to know Hayden and his family well. So you're getting different parts of people rather than just showing up on court and wanting to kill them.
I'd be curious to know how much the playing with in the fives enhanced. I mean, Annalie kind of mentioned it in the interview of how much it enhanced your relationship off court. How did that hold true for you of just getting to know that family a little bit better, and instead of facing her every weekend, you're now playing with her?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. To be honest, it kind of made things a little bit harder to play against her during the season, just because we had cultivated that relationship, and I became close with Lee. Annalie became a good friend of mine as well. So, like when we both would get fired up, it was a little more like, it was a little different. But I'm really happy she drafted me. I'm really happy that we got to have that experience, because I don't think we would have. And they're some like, I really enjoy them. I never knew Stephen Waters. Stephen Waters is hilarious. So it was really cool because we're both so business-like when we're there. We're like in the tent. Once we're done, we're done. So I think she saw a different side of me, which she would have never seen. And I definitely saw a different side of her. So there's a definite big mutual respect, and I'll always consider her a friend.
Okay. You've made this bond with this team, and they're now friends, and now you switch teams.
I know it's a little
now,
lame.
like a bigger circle of friends or mortal enemies? Like how hard is that to separate and then go into a new season?
I don't think it's hard for any of us to separate. We're like all so competitive, and really none of us ended up on the same team. As I said, I was trying for Hayden because I really wanted that. But I don't think, we're going to want to win. To me, the fives are always going to be pretty special to me, just because I felt like we were just such a like roller coaster of a team. And we had a lot of fun and good memories together. But, this next team, it might be the same. So you never know. I'm hoping that MLP eventually becomes a thing where you're with one team, you can make some trades, but you have your core.
Like for multiple seasons, or just year to year, or
I would think so. I mean, and then you can create drops from premier to challenger, right? So it's like, I'm not holding my weight. I don't have that luxury of staying in premier. My team can then trade me down or put me on waivers, and a challenger team pick me up. Yeah, I think that just because, like, I know we had a lot of fans behind the fives as well, and now they're like, oh, well, now they're cheering for a completely different team. So I hope that it gets to a point. I mean, I know there's like a bunch of team adding and a lot of logistics, but I hope it gets to a point where, you're on one team and that's your team.
It sounds like once the teams are settled, that might be the direction they're headed with the free agency stuff, which would be a whole new can of worms.
That really would. And bring some salary caps and all
what
that
made
jazz.
Yeah, well, that's where the real money, I think, would come into play too, right? So what made you so high on, obviously you played with him with the fives, but what made you so high on Hayden, who's so young and newish to the sport?
I am always, as you can see with my woman's choice in playing with Tyler Black next year, I think people were a little surprised when I came out so early and said it, but I'm big on upside, and I feel like I have a pretty good eye for some upside. And Hayden Patrick just kind of reminds me of J.W. Johnson, the fact that he's small. You can tell he's growing. He has all this untapped potential, but he's tricky. He has great thinking, great court awareness, great hands. So when Hayden becomes a man, who's gonna that's somebody who has like such a high ceiling to me. And I played with J.W. Johnson when he was 18 years old, and then in the year that he turned 19. And in that whole entire year, JW just became a man, and we became really good. And he filled out, and he became who he is today. And I think that's what's going to happen with Hayden. I don't really foresee too many other guys right now, unless there's newer ones coming in, that I'm like, he's going to make a jump. A lot of them I see, they are where they are.
Have you had time to look at the other team builds, and is there a team that really strikes fear in your heart?
No team really strikes fear in my heart.
You have to say that. Okay, off the record. Now off the record, you can tell us.
No, I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of teams, like, when we looked at them, we thought, like, there's a lot of them with some big gaping holes, or you're not really sure how that chemistry is going to work or anything like that. I'm sure some people are thinking that about us, but I think we're all around a solid team. So it's really like the more so all around solid teams that kind of make me one off the top of my head, and people won't agree with this, but if Tyra goes and continues on this trajectory that I think she's going to, her and Mary, Tyra has some takeover ability, and she has some one ball put away ability. And then you have two really strong guys with a fourth round, very solid female who's always showing up in the singles, mixed, and women's phases, not meddling, but she's making good runs. You don't ever play Mary Brasha and think, oh, that's an easy one, right? So I think that team, depending on if Tyra makes the jump that I know she will, that's a team that I'm like, oh, dang, Federico's getting better. Tyson's always solid. Mary's always solid, sorry. So that's a team, but then, that's also a team that could go this way or that way, depending on how Tyson and Fed play with each other, how Mary and Tyra, for the first time, play with each other, too.
And how they manage the unique pressure of MLP, which you're very familiar with the fives consistently making deep runs. What would you say, or what have you heard about the vulnerabilities of your team, and how would you address that with what could be a potential outside perspective weakness that you think is a non-factor for your team?
Our guys team has now been proven. They played at Beer City Open. I think they're going to be good. That was one of the things. There were some questions about me and Etta and I, because I like the left side and Etta likes the left side, but I'm a pretty good right side player too. I'm like, yes, I prefer the left because I feel like I'm tall, I have my flick, and that's where I can be most dangerous, but I can play the right side. I actually play it too much. Like, I was telling people, like, this weekend, I'm done with it. I'm done making my partner happy. I'm going to go do what I can do. But I can conform to whatever. And Etta has a great game style that I like, where she's just going to fire away, and I can fire away. So I've heard some concerns about Etta and I with the sides, and they're not really sure how our mixed teams are going to stack up, because Etta and I don't have the greatest mixed results at PPAs, but I've gotten pretty decent results. Travis and I were consistently making quarterfinals. Yes, I'm not making those deep runs, but it's really tough. And Etta's kind of been on this carousel partner switch. So there's always going to be questions, but the big thing is, I think us as a team, we're very confident within ourselves, which is kind of all that matters.
And a quick follow-up there, when you're talking about training for mixed, and with the now parity at the top of the league, it's challenging to make it past the quarters. So what, in your mind, is the key to where the game has evolved in being a good female half of the mixed doubles portion?
So this is the reason why I quit singles too. It's like, I had this thing in singles where full concentration, you had to earn every point from me, full, like, everything. Like, I wanted to win, and I knew I was going to win, so I made sure of it. And if you beat me, you were going to have a day, and you were going to have to hit a million shots. I think the best girls are like that in mixed doubles as well. Like, I'm not going to miss a dink. If I do miss a dink, I'm going to make my next one. If I pop it up, I'm going to scrap out of it. You have to have this high level of focus and high level of just really grinding out these points that I wasn't able to have. I would just kind of level off at the end of the day. So I think that, and I think you also have some guts. I think you got to start being aggressive out there and not just letting the other guy on the other side of the court do what they want to do.
A quick follow-up there. If you're matching up against two righties in the mixed doubles format, is there a specific shot you have to have in your back pocket as the women's side? Because obviously you're the reset. you have to be consistent with your thirds and resets, but then what other shots do you want in your back pocket?
I want to be able to, I think poaching for the girl is super important in mixed. Just putting a lot of pressure up there, and you can get some quick free points. Like that's what Federico and I are really focusing on. Just like that's 4 points. We want to get 4 points a game. And also just like keeping that guy honest, like attacking his backhand, not making it so when you're dinking cross court, he can just feel free reign to move in. Anna Lee, Catherine, Anna, Lindsay Newman, Callie Smith, Georgia Johnson, all those girls are really keeping the guy honest. You know, they're not just dinking cross court.
So let's move to the weekly news of MLP real quick here. And I have a signature paddle coming out. It's fluorescent yellow with black polka dots.
Oh, no.
And it's coming out next week. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh,
Are you serious?
no.
This is actually?
No.
Oh. I was like, what?
Lea, how do you feel about this new ruling of like the colorful paddles not having a place anymore, getting rid of the yellows and anything that kind of matches the ball or blends in? Is that the right direction?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, who hasn't gotten the ball lost on Tyson's paddle? Like, I'm sorry, it's tough. It's really tough. There's a reason why his serve and drive and crash are just so amazing right now. You're not seeing the ball. A lot of people were complaining about Hayden's paddle, which wasn't as like shiny as Tyson. So, I mean, when the ball is on the paddle, you have to see that. If you don't see it, you're not going to pick it up until the ball is on the other side of the net, and that just slows down your reaction time. So, yeah, I think it's a good move. I myself am for it, and I think it's going to make a difference. Especially just people are just so sensitive to contrast right now.
Quick follow-up on speaking of seeing the ball at the paddle. One thing I wanted to ask you about was working with Jack Proctor. I believe his name is Jack
Pryor.
Proctor. Is it Jack Proctor? Pryor. That's what it is. Thank you. The vision coach. What did that training look like for you? How has that impacted your ability to see the split second balls?
It's actually really simple.
What is a vision coach?
Well, what he's introduced as, but it's actually very simple. I do a lot of the stuff myself. He just kind of sees like what part of my eyes need to be fixed, and that's I do the exercises each day. It builds the muscles to make me track the ball. It's pretty simple. But yeah, it's kind of what I do. I do it on my own now. It's just a everyday training type of thing. I know I'm not the only one on the tour who does it. And especially just because there's so much quick hands, quick reaction, this kind of stuff, you need those extra milliseconds.
I feel like a lot of hockey and baseball players do this too, but how did he, so you said he saw you in Daytona, MLP Daytona, and spotted you that he could see immediately that you had issues seeing the ball as clearly as you could. How did he see that so clearly in you, I guess?
This is his field. He was one of the first in vision and cognition, in sports science. So, yeah, he just called me up after Daytona just to kind of sitting on the TV. He knew I was an Austin local. So he called me up and he kind of introduced me to it. And it's been helpful. I'll continue to do it. But, yeah, I mean, that's kind of just basically how it happens. And a lot of it, it helps your confidence. If you're seeing the ball a lot better, you're not reacting so terribly to the ball. You feel more like in depth, kind of you feel more in control on the court, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's been a pretty simple thing, and I just continue to work at it each day, keep doing my eye exercises each day, and Yeah.
It's cool.
Before we close, knowing that this past tournament was your last in singles, and I remember you had tweeted months ago about like maybe how singles shouldn't exist or it should go away. So I got on your Twitter account. I was going to like timestamp that as part of our conversation. But then I started reading, I follow you. It's okay that you don't follow me back, whatever. But
I do follow you back. I'm pretty sure I do.
Instagram. You're following Casey? Whatever.
I don't think
Listen,
so.
That's neither here nor there. I started reading down all of your tweets, and I would say you're a very strong, if not one of the strongest pickleball tweeters in the space. And I didn't even get to that tweet I was looking for because I was looking at all the other tweets you had. And two of them that stood out to me. First, you have this one about statistics in pickleball and about how, like, just because somebody puts a slam away, that's not necessarily the stat. The stat is who actually made the mistake to set that up. Did the partner set it up? Did someone make a mistake? All of that. Mm-hmm. And that's why, to me, like, what are all these factors that we need to be looking at?
So I have been talking about this for a long time now because I'm like one, I don't think I'm one of the OG statters, but like ever since I've been in this game, I'll bring out like, okay, what do I want to do? I'll write out my variables and it will take a long time. And that's what I was doing a lot of the times. And then I see this real stat stuff and I'm like fact checking it. And one of the points is like, I pop a ball up and someone reaches in and slams James and James gets a -1 on that. And then there's another point where I completely set it up and there's just an easy put away and James gets a +1 on that. I'm like, okay, this is so not like pickleball to me is like statting chess. Like you have to do this move, this move, this move. If you're really just taking a stat sheet from the court and putting it on there and you're just like, oh, that's that. I don't think that's telling the story at all. I think if your partner is messing up, you actually lose points for it. And that to me is just really stupid. Like sometimes I won't receive a +1 attack because the easy put away goes to my partner. Or sometimes there's a cross court minus attack when like literally I'm back in the transition zone. I'm trying to dig a ball out. So I don't think any of their firefights, I don't think any of their unforced errors, any of that, I don't think a computer program can just look at a pickleball game and just be like, that's how it is and get the stat sheet. I just think it's too subjective.
And it's only looking at the final point, which is like the final sequence, which is only telling half the story.
Yeah, it's just like the final shots. Like what if I do a dumb cross-court speed up and it just goes right into somebody and they take it out? Like, that's not my fault. Like, that's my fault. That's not my partner's fault.
Yeah.
So I think it's very subjective and obviously they're going to learn and stuff, but I don't think you can do it like a basketball game where you're like, oh, this person, even in basketball games, like, you know, how can you measure a John Stockton who statistically wasn't the best, but he did so much for the game in his point management and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's, I don't pay attention to those stats anymore.
Is this what needs to change before gambling can be a thing in pickleball?
I know they're trying to change it because of gambling. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you have to because you can't go to a sports book and the sports book not feel like they have the edge. Like the whole trick of gambling is like the sports book has to have the edge while the gambler thinks they have the edge. And until you can meet that in the middle somewhere, it can't happen. So that's why you have to have these people looking at this and a computer can't do it. Let's go to another tweet. And this is the one that really jumped out to me. And I've been like thinking about it all weekend. And it goes like this. Again, your handle is Lea Jansen PB for those at Twitter. And this is the one that I lost sleep over this one. After a long weekend, my luggage with Fly Frontier never made it out of Denver. That had my car key, apartment key, and all my Lulu clothing. How much do we want to bet I never see that suitcase again? I have so many questions.
On a direct flight.
Yeah, but like first, why Frontier?
Because I had to get out of Denver. I couldn't breathe.
Okay.
Like no, like could not
they
breathe.
are at
I was
Denver.
like,
Frontier
I was
is
like,
at
I
Denver.
just, I
awful
have
there,
to get
yeah.
out of here.
That's
I
fair.
like, I can't do it. Like after my bronze match, like, I mean, Lucy can ask you. Like Lucy was just like, I'm like, I'm sorry, this is the one tournament we play together. I like was just could not do it, and so I needed to get out of there. I needed to breathe, and on a direct flight, they somehow lost it.
Okay, and then secondly, I think it's in the Bible somewhere. Like, don't put your car keys in your checked luggage. Like, you're supposed to hold
that's
on
what
to
Frontier-
those.
That's what Frontier said. I honestly, I was delirious. Honestly,
Okay.
I was like delirious, and yeah. But I ended up getting the car key and the apartment key replaced like that. The Lulu clothing, like rip. I mean, and
Yeah.
talking to Frontier, they're like, I'm like, it's business clothing, and they're like, yeah. So that's a whole process to try and get that back.
So
So,
you still haven't seen it.
No,
It's still gone.
still gone. Yeah, just
so
got-
you went to
I'll
Frontier
never fly.
baggage,
I'll never fly Frontier ever again.
but
You need to get an air tag, by the way, for your check
I know
luggage.
that's
Game
a lot of
changer.
the
Then you
feedback
can
I
track
got.
it.
Ooh, is that what you do?
That's what I do because I hate checking. I never
Yeah.
check luggage. I'm a pro
Interesting.
gypsy. I usually live out of my carry-on.
Yeah.
But on these, I'm living Lea's schedule now. So on these 10-day trips, what are you supposed to do? I have to check
Yeah.
a bag. But I get it.
So
I'm
you
with
went to Frontier baggage desk and were like, my keys were in there, and they were like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. That was their response.
They turned it on
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No, that was their response. So
Well, if you want to get more fire tweets like that, you can follow Lea on Twitter. She's also on Instagram. And if you want more MLP news, you can go to MajorLeaguePickleball.net for all the latest news for the team builds, for the events, to buy tickets, to watch any of the past events. You can also follow Major League Pickleball on all major social medias. Thank you so much, Lea, for being here and for your time and energy.
Thanks for having me.
We've had so much fun watching you. And best of luck with the remainder of 2023.
let's get some mixed medals. That's what you should wish me luck on.
Woohoo!
Okay, I do. I wish you
Yeah,
all
Yeah,
the
we
luck.
can see her back in singles in like 6 months.
Yeah, maybe.
Just kidding.